Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. It's been a long one. Look, I've been on social media longer than anyone in Congress, I think. I was one of the first schools to have Facebook back in 2004. And it seemed to me that the goal of social media was simply to connect people. Now, the reason we're here today is because over time, the role of social media has expanded in an extraordinary way, and your power to sway opinions and control narratives is far greater than the US government's power ever has been. So I noticed a trend today. There's a growing desire from many of my colleagues to make you the arbiters of truth. See, they know you have this power, and they want to direct that power for their own political gain. Mr. Zuckerberg, since Facebook was my first love, I'm going to direct questions at you, and this isn't a trick question, I promise. Do you believe in the spirit of the First Amendment, free speech, robust debate, basic liberal values?
Yes, absolutely.
See, my colleagues can't infringe on the First Amendment. The American people in their speech are protected from government, as they should be. My colleagues, this administration, they can't silence people they disagree with, no matter how much they want to. But I do think they want to. Just in this hearing, I've heard Democrats complain about misinformation, by which they clearly mean political speech they disagree with. They've complained today that Prager University content is still up. I've heard them accuse conservative veterans of being tinfoil hat-wearing extremists, and that opinions on climate change that they disagree with should be taken down. This is quite different from the Republican complaint that illegal content needs to be addressed. There's a growing number of people in this country that don't believe in the liberal values of free speech and free debate. I promise you, the death of the First Amendment will come when the culture no longer believes in it. When that happens, then it becomes okay to jail or investigate citizens for speech, like has happened in Canada and throughout Europe. Their culture turned against free speech. You all sitting here today as witnesses are part of the culture. You can stand up for the spirit of open debate and free speech, or you can be the enemy of it. Your stance is important because it's clear that many want to weaponize your platforms to get you to do their bidding for them. Mr. Zuckerberg, do you think it's your place to be the judge of what is true when it comes to political opinions?
Congressman, no, I don't believe that we should be the arbiter of truth.
Thank you. And look, I promise you this, as long as you resist these increasing calls from politicians to do their political bidding for them, I will have your back. When you don't, you become an enemy of liberty and longstanding American tradition. You might all agree in principle with what I just said. Mr. Zuckerberg, you clearly do, and I have a feeling the others would answer it as well. I just don't have time to ask everybody. But the fact remains that community standards on social media platforms are perceived to be applied unequally and with blatant bias. Mr. Dorsey, in just one example, I saw a video from Project Veritas that was taken down because they confronted a Facebook executive on his front lawn. But here's the thing, I can show you a video of CNN doing the exact same thing to an old woman who was a Trump supporter in her front yard. I've looked at both videos. It's an apples to apples comparison. CNN remains up. Project Veritas was taken down. I'll give you a chance to respond to that. I have a feeling you're going to tell me you have to look into it.
I don't have an understanding of the case, but I would imagine if we were to take a video like that down, it would be due to a doxing concern, private address.
The address was blurred out. You don't have it. You don't have the case in front of you. I get that. The point is there's countless examples like this. I just found that one today. There's countless examples like this. So even if we agree in principle and everything I just went over, you guys have lost trust. And you've lost trust because this bias is seeping through. We need more transparency. We need better appeals process, more equitable application of your community guidelines, because we have to root out political bias in these platforms. I think, and I've talked with a lot of you offline, or at least your staff, and I think there's some agreement there. And I haven't heard in this hearing anybody ask you what you're doing to achieve these goals. So I will allow you to do that now. Maybe Mr. Zuckerberg will start with you.
Sorry, to achieve which goals?
More transparency, more feeling that the better appeals process for content taken down, more equitable application of community guidelines.
So for transparency, we issue quarterly community standards enforcement reports on what prevalence of harmful content of each category, from terrorism to incitement of violence to child exploitation, all the things that we've talked about, how much of it there is and how effective we are at finding that, and stats around that. For appeals, the biggest thing that we've done is set up this independent oversight board, which is staffed with people who all have a strong commitment to free expression, for whom people in our community can ultimately appeal to them, and that group will make a binding decision, including overturning several of the things that we've taken down and telling us that we have to put them back up, and then we respect that.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair now recognizes, last but not least, my fellow Pennsylvanian, Mr. Joyce. You're recognized.